Okay, this is 3.3. We're going to get into new types of problems here, so watch out. Okay, negative 8x equals negative 72. Now what does that mean? Well, x is on the left side, but here's the deal. Between the 8 and the x, it's not a plus, it's not a minus, it's a times. So what that means is negative 8 times x is negative 72. So what number would I take negative 8 times and get negative 72 as the answer? Okay. Well, here's how we do this. Okay. When you have a times operation with that dot, okay, you are going to circle the negative 8 along with the x. Okay. Now in the past assignments I was just circling the x, okay? But when x has a times or a divide, I want to circle that too. And this is what I do, okay? The opposite of times is to divide, okay? So when we're dividing, we're going to underline each side because the line means divided by. And whatever the number is with the x, the negative 8, I put on under both lines, okay? So here's what happens. If I have a times negative 8 and a divide by negative 8, make two lines and cross those out, okay? Two separate lines, they cancel out. So line up your equals and you have x, and over on the other side I divide negative 72 by negative 8. And that's 9, okay? Now I'm going to check my answers on these, so I'm actually going to write the equation twice, okay? This is just for checking it. Actually, yeah. So x is on this side of the bubble. Between the 5 and the x there's no sign. That automatically means we put it's multiplied. So circle your x along with the times 5. Again, if you have a times, you want to circle that number along with the x. Now the opposite of times is to divide, okay? So to divide, I make two lines. We put the 5 underneath both of them. You put the 1 multiplied times the x underneath them. You can cancel those, and we have x by itself. Over on the other side, we're going to take negative 65 divided by 5, negative 13. Here's how we can check the answer. You want to put a times dot and then a negative 13 above your x. Now take 5 times negative 13. Negative 65. That's the right answer. Okay, 60 equals negative 6x. Okay. So keep making your bubble and your wall. Between the 6 and the x there's no sign, so we need to put a times sign, and then I need to circle the negative 6 along with the x. So the opposite of times is to divide, which means I underline both sides and put negative 6, because that's a number that's times by x. So negative 6, negative 6. So I cancel those and I have x by itself. 60 divided by negative 6 is negative 10. Okay, whoops, I forgot to check my answer. That's fine, I'll do it on the rest. Okay, next problem. Negative 48 equals negative 12x. And I'm going to write it again. Okay, this is where I'm going to do my work. X is on this side. 12 in the x, there's no sign though, so it's a times. So I circle that. And the opposite of times is to divide. So if I see the dot, I know I'm going to divide. I underline each side and place negative 12 under each line. I cancel these. So we have x over there. Negative 48 divided by negative 12 is 4. Okay, here's how you check your answer. You put the times dot, cross out your x and put your 4. Now I take negative 12 times 4 and hope that's negative 48. It is. Okay. Next one. 64 equals 16x. So x is on this side of the bubble. No symbol, so it's times. So I want to circle the time. Since x is being times, and if it's being divided, we're going to be circling that. Okay. And up here is where I'll check my answer. Okay. Don't want to forget that again. Now I divide and place the 16, the number that's multiplied by x, under the lines. So I cancel the 16s, and that just gives me x. 64 divided by 16 is 4. Okay. Now come up to the original equation, write times, and then cross out your x and put for your answer 4, and see if 16 times 4 is 64. Indeed it is. Okay, next one, negative 8x equals negative 72. So, between the 8 and the x, we have a multiplication sign. I want to circle the negative 8 then along with the x. So the opposite of times is, I did it again, negative x. That's me just writing down the original problem. Okay, so I can check it later up here. Because on this I've crossed out a bunch of stuff and all that, it's hard to see. Opposite of times is to divide. Now here's one thing you don't want to do, okay? When you are dividing and multiplying, you do not switch your negative 8 to a positive 8. You need to put negative 8, negative 8. It has to be by the exact same number. Multiply, divide, we don't switch the signs. We keep the negative 8 when we put it underneath, okay? Because to be able to cancel them, they have to be the same. They both need to be negative. So we have x. Negative 72 divided by negative 8 is positive 9. Okay. So I go up here, I put the multiplication dot, cross out x and put your 9. Negative 8 times 9. Let's hope that's negative 72. It is. Okay. Okay, negative 4x equals negative 16. Wait a second, I skipped a problem, my bad. Okay. 64. You won't show it up as skipping because I'm gonna paste it on here. Okay, there we go. Now we're good. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's my equals. X is on this side, but between the 4 and the x, that's at times. Okay, and I'll write the original problem up here so I can check it later. So when I have multiplication with the x, I want to circle the multiplication along with the x. So I divide by the negative 4. Okay. So we cross those out, and I have x by itself. 16 divided by negative 4. It's going to be negative 4. So to check your answer, I put a times dot, cross out the x in the beginning, and take negative 4 times negative 4. And that's 16. Or wait a second, no. That should have been positive 4. I didn't see the negative on the 16. Negative 16 divided by negative 4 is 4. Okay, so get rid of that negative. Now, so it's 4. So I take negative 4 times 4. Negative 16 it is. Okay. Okay, last one of these. Negative 40 equals 5x. So x is on this side. Between the 5 and the x, I have a times dot. Okay. So I circle that. And by the way, I'm going to write the same thing right here, just so I can check it later. You don't. That's optional on the assignment. You can just go from here if you want. So 5 times x, the opposite of times is to divide. So dividing, I want to underline each side and place the factor of 5 underneath so that those cancel and I place a 5 under there. So we have x over here, and then negative 40 divided by 5 is negative 8. Okay, I can check my answer if I cross out and put negative 8. So I take 5 times negative 8. Hopefully that's negative 40, which it is. Okay, now the game changes. So with the time, if I see x has a times number with it, I underline both sides and divide. Okay, now the game's going to change a little bit on this next one. We have x divided by 3 equals 4. Now the line's divided by. So I continue to make my bubble. So the operation between the x and the 3 is divided by. So like I was doing with the times, I circle the divided part. Okay. Now the opposite of divide is to times. So I'm going to put a dot up there instead of a division sign. So what I do is I put a dot on each side. And I'm going to do the 3. So 3, 3. Now what happens is the 3's cancel, and I have x. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. Now, in the next problem, I'm going to check my answer. X, underline, negative 6 equals negative 3, and then I'm going to put it up here so I can check my answer at the end. So bubble, x is here. Now the x and the negative 6, that's a division. So like I want to circle the divided by along with the x. So the opposite of divided by is to times. Okay. So on the problems on the last page, I saw a dot, so I was going to divide, but now I have divide, I'm going to do times. So I times both by negative 6, because that's the one we want. We want the x by itself. So the times negative 6 and divide by negative 6, those cancel. When you times and divide something by the same number, they cancel. So I have x by itself. Over here, negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. That's the answer. Now I'm going to come up here, put 18. Now I'm going to take 18 divided by negative 6. And it's negative 3. Okay, next problem. X over 2 equals negative 12, and then I'm going to put it up there so I can check it after the problem. Okay, so divided by is the operation. So like with times, you want to circle divided by. Okay, if it's just plus or minus, I just circle the x, but times and divided by, I need to circle the entire operation. Okay, so I see divided by, so I am going to do the opposite, which is times. So I put a dot on each side, and it's by 2. So the times 2 and divide by 2 is cancels, so that's why they're opposites, and that's x by itself. Now negative 12 times 2 is negative 24. Now I'm going to circle my answer, but then I'm going to verify. So negative 24. So I take negative 4 divided by 2, negative 24 divided by 2, and hope that's negative 12. It is. Okay. Okay, next problem. X divided by 5 equals 10. So here's x, it's on the left side. The operation between the x and 5 is divided by, so we're going to circle the division along with the x. So if I see divided by, to solve for x, I need to do the opposite in times. Okay, here I'll put the problem up here so I can check it later. So times, 5 and 5. So the times 5 undoes the division, and I have x by itself. 10 times 5 is 50. So if I think the answer is 50, I take 50 divided by 5 from the original equation, and it should be 10, which it is. Okay, next problem. X negative 6 equals 12. Copy it down up here. I'm just copying the original problem so I can check it later. This is where I'll do the work. Okay, so x and negative 6, that's divided by, so we circle divided by. Then we times and times. So if I have to undo a divided by, I want a times by negative 6. So that those cancel is what that's called. And then 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. Okay, now I'm going to check my answer, and I'm going to put negative 72 where x is at. So now I take negative 72 divided by negative 6, and that's 12. Okay, so that's the right answer. Okay, next one. X negative 3 equals negative 14, and then I'm going to copy it up here so I can check it later. So x is on this side of the bubble, so between the x and the 3, that's not a minus. The line means it's divided by, so I want to circle the divided by negative 3 part along with the x. So I see the line there, that's division, so I do the opposite, which is multiplication. So I times by the negative 3, because we want to get rid of that divided by. So those now cancel. If you're times and divided by the same number, you have just x. Negative 14 times negative 3. That's 42. Okay, now let's check our answer. So let's cross out the x and put 42. Now let's take 42 divided by negative 3. Negative 14. Okay, x divided by 7 equals 10. Okay, solving for x. I'll copy it up here so I can check it at the end. Okay, so x divided by 7. Okay, so I have divided by, so I need to times. If I see the division operation, I times. If I see the times operation, I divide. Okay, so I times by 7. The times 7 divided by 7 cancels. 10 times 7 is 70. So I come up here and put 70. 70 divided by 7 is 10. Okay, it equals 10. Okay, then our last one. X divided by negative 8 equals 10. Up there I'm going to write the same thing. So the wall's on that side. The operation between the x and the 8 is not minus, it's divided by. So I circle the divided by. Okay, so I have to do the opposite of divide, which is to times. So times each side of the equation by negative 8. Because if I have a times and a divide by the same number, those factors cancel, and I have x. Then 10 times negative 8 is negative 80. Now come up here, replace your x with negative 80. So negative 80 divided by negative 8. That's 10. Okay, so we're good.